Hi, this is Sage with Learning with Sage. In this video, you'll learn how to create and use charts and graphs in Google Sheets to visualize your income and expenses. Adding a visual element to your data can sometimes help you see where you're spending your money in a different, some would say better, way, and will also lead to additional insights you might not notice otherwise. In the previous video, How to Create an Annual Budget, we looked at setting up your annual budget to track income and expenses, and will largely be using that sheet and the monthly sheet for this tutorial. Let's actually get started by looking at that monthly income and expenses sheet. As you can see, I filled out the sheet for all the income and expenses for the month of May for this video. These are all example expenses, but you get the idea. You would put in your own expenses, of course. You can review that blog post and video for more information on how this sheet is laid out, but the basic gist of it for our purposes here is that we have expenses on the left and categories, expenses on the left and categories on the right. Let's highlight the relevant data in each column, starting with the expenses. We will drag that down until we select all of the dollar amounts, and then I'll hold down the Control key and I'll select all my expenses over here on the right. So now I have both of those columns selected. Then what we'll do is we'll go to Insert, Chart. I like to start with a pie chart, which shows a nice distribution of values in a visually pleasing way. It's a lot of data there, though. Also, make sure to choose to aggregate column J, that's our categories. Those are the expense categories, and we don't want every item to have its own slice since some of them are duplicated. We actually do want to know how the expenses are broken out by category. That will be the most useful for us. Alright, I'm also going to increase the size of the chart by dragging the handles in the corners to make it easier to read. There we go. You'll see in our example, we spent about 36% of our income, this big blue slice, on our mortgage. That is fairly standard, maybe a bit higher than we'd like, but not something we can change very easily unless we increase our income. So right there, you see that this kind of charting can help you make decisions. Are you happy with 36% of your income going towards your mortgage, or would you like it to be more like 25%? With more going towards savings? Well, you'd need to increase your salary for that to happen. Speaking of savings, we can see we're about 10% of our income. That's this purple slice. Rounded up slightly according to this chart. That's not too bad, but let's say we want to increase our savings to 15 or even 20% of our income. Again, we'd either have to make more money and allocate more to savings, or we could cut down on our other expenses. How would we do that? Well, let's look at our other expenses and see if we can't try and reduce some of them in the months ahead. Probably our auto insurance and fuel consumption will remain fairly steady, so not much we can do there. Electricity, water, and trash are also likely to stay pretty constant. But we also have some expenses in here we could probably cut to meet our financial goals, such as the restaurant expense. Software and furniture might be a one-time expense, and DMV is not likely to be a recurring expense, at least not on a monthly basis, so we could probably add those onto our savings goal for the following month, along with clothing, shoes, and appliances, and tickets. If we did that, we'd be well on our way to meeting our savings goals, but are we having any fun? So these are the kinds of decisions you'll have to make with your monthly expense sheets, and these charts can help you do that. Now, let's go over to our annual sheet. and see if we can't crunch some more numbers to give us more ideas to make more financial decisions to help us reach our goals. I won't go over how this sheet works in this video either, but you can refer to my blog post and video on it before you read further if you like, or after you're done. First, let's review our income. I'll select the data like we did previously by highlighting the first column and then the actual column for how much we made. And then we'll insert our chart. I'm going to do the same thing, creating a pie chart. That's very informative. As you can see, I better not quit my day job, as almost 90% of my income comes from that source, this big blue piece of the pie. So you can see in some cases getting a visual picture of things really is worth 1,000 words. Next, we can look at some of our expenses and see how we're spending our money. I'm going to get rid of this chart. For example, we can take a set of data from our home expenses to see how that breaks down and look at a variety of charts to see what kind of information we can glean from that. Clearly, we're spending most of our household expenses on our mortgage. That's this big red slice. That's not entirely unexpected, but maybe we want a broader picture of what our expenses look like. Unfortunately, using the easy layout we have here, which helps us input our data in a nice user-friendly way throughout the year, doesn't help us as much with the charts. It's not so easy to take data from more than 2 columns and aggregate them, so we can quickly copy and paste our various expense categories at the end of the year into an entirely new set of columns to get the format we need to make our chart. So for example, I would copy all these home expenses, hold down Control, copy transportation, hold down Control, copy those, so on and so forth for column A as well as column F. And I'm going to put those over in column K. And then for the actual expenses, I'm going to highlight the columns in C, hold down Control, highlight more, do the same with the columns in H, for example, and then I'm going to paste all of those over in L. You can see I've done that here. It's not the prettiest thing, but it works for our end of year charting. Now let's create our first aggregate chart. This is going to be all the expenses for the year. Alright, got them all selected. Insert chart. Alright, that's a lot of data, probably too much data, but let's just open it up a little bit first so we can analyze it. You can see I still spend the vast majority of my income on my mortgage, the red, but you can also find other interesting data in here, such as the next big expenses, which is probably even more interesting to note since we already learned from our monthly budgets that we spend more than we'd like on our mortgage compared to the amount of money we bring in. So we can see that our car loan is green, as well as our auto insurance, student loans, and electricity are big outlays as well. That's very valuable information. First, it shows us that having a car loan is probably not a good idea and we should pay that off. It also shows us there are savings we could potentially make with our electric bills, so those notices the power company sends us aren't useless after all, or at least not all of them. But then you can get even more granular with your understanding of your finances with charting. Let's delete this chart and then select just the data we want to use from our new columns we set up, specifically not selecting those biggest ticket items. This will allow us to more easily see how we spend the rest of our money. So I'm going to go back over these that I'd selected. I'm going to skip electricity and mortgage, and I'm going to choose heating system and drag that there, and then I'm also going to control click and drag all of these going to skip auto insurance. I'm going to jump over to gas. Or no, I do want auto insurance. I'm skipping my car loan. Alright, let's insert another chart with those big ticket items out of the way. Alright, this gives us a new data set that's also quite interesting. As you can see, I did accidentally select the car loan. Well, you can see our car loan is our largest expense. Student loans is very high. Our heating system, our groceries, our auto insurance, these are all secondarily large expenses. And we might be able to make some cuts to, I don't know, groceries, for example, by buying less choice items and being more selective about our purchases. Gas is a fairly large expenditure. Maybe it's time to look at getting a hybrid vehicle after all. Internet, cable, landscaping, and supplies are also turning out to be a money pit. Maybe I could do more landscaping myself, or perhaps I can find my supplies more cheaply elsewhere. Do I really need cable? Can I cut the cost of my internet service with another plan? So many questions and possibilities arise when you can look at your data visually. And of course, you could even drill down further and get rid of those medium-sized ticket items you just visualized to see how else you spend your money. I think you get the picture. The more closely you can analyze your cash flow, the more you can see where you can make tweaks to your budget to fit your financial goals. Use these techniques you learned in this video and in the previous videos, and you'll be well on your way to financial independence and making smarter purchasing and other financial decisions. If you like this video, please click the like button and feel free to comment. Also, please visit me at learningwithsage.com. I do life coaching in the area of personal finances, and if you would like help in this area, please don't hesitate to contact me. We can set up a time to talk by phone or Skype or email and see if we would work well together. It's totally free to have that initial conversation.